Hello, Steve Townsend here from Townsend Handcrafted Whips, and today we are going to replace an already existing fall on a whip. This whip is new and doesn't need a new fall, but just for the purpose of the video today, we'll show you how this is done so that when your fall, gets trimmed too short from putting poppers on it over the years, you can replace that without undoing any of the hitches in your fall hitch. And we'll get started on that right away. So, first thing you want to do, and I like to do this when I replace a fall first, because if you forget to do this, it's really going to be a pain in the rear. So what I'm going to go ahead and do right now is just feed this new fall onto the whip and just put it over the popper. Just force it right over the top of this existing fall hitch, which can take a little bit of finagling. Put that in there and go ahead and feed that onto the whip and just leave it, wherever for right now. So now what we got to do is get this old fall, which is actually a new fall, out of this whip. And we're going to leave all these hitches tied. This is tied nice and tight around this, so we've made sure that the fall that we're putting on here is approximately about the same width as this fall here, so that these hitches on this new fall will still be nice and tight. So what I'm going to do first, some of the tools you're going to need to do this real quick. I've got a towel so I can grab this fall. It's going to have some conditioner on it, or hopefully some plaiting, so it would be about the best thing you could do this with. But you want to be able to get a good grip on it so you can pull it nice and tight and make it seat in here real good. I got a pair of scissors because we're going to have to cut the old fall out and trim the new fall to a point here momentarily. I got a fid so I can fit up underneath this thing. You will see that here momentarily. A new popper and some conditioner to put on there. Or like I said, plaiting soap would probably be your best bet as far as getting this to slip real good and initially condition the fall. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of very carefully, you don't want to do any damage to these strands or this fall hitch. So what I'm going to do is to just kind of start getting up underneath this existing fall and try to get this fid to come through it. Now you can try that from the front or from the back. It looks like I'm going to have better luck coming from this side and going right up under it. Now I've got that fid coming out right there, and I'm just going to force that in a little bit to try to get this fall loosened up a little bit enough to where I can get the scissors up underneath it without damaging the whip. And you might even be able to somewhat hold this fall hitch here and pull that up a little bit. And I'll just give it a good finagling and wiggle it around and get that out as much as I can. The more I can get this out, the less likely I'm going to be to cut my strands here. You don't want that, because then you're going to have to undo everything, tie a new fall hitch, and that's going to cost you some of the length of your whip. We don't want that. So I'm just going to go ahead and finagle this back and forth a little bit. I feel like I've got it pretty loosened up there. Now I'm going to take this pair of scissors and try to, again, very carefully, right through that hole without cutting any of my kangaroo. I'm going to start, just make a little snip. I'm not going all the way through at this point. I'm just snipping it. And you can't be too careful at this stage. You don't want, especially if you're changing some kind of, your whip is a 24 plat Joe Strange show whip. You might just want to send that to Joe and let him do it. But now that I've got it cut a little bit, I'm going to try to finagle it a little more, wiggle it out. Like I said, you can't be too careful, because worst case scenario, it takes a little bit more time than normal, but you don't damage your whip. And eventually, I'll be able to cut all the way through the eye of this old fall. These scissors are a bit dull, but that's all right. We'll make it work. All right, so now, I always run the fall hitch. Not always, but sometimes I'll run the last hitch of my fall hitch will come through the first, so that additionally helps hold that in place. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do now that I've got that eye broken apart is to just go ahead and trim some of this excess off, so that I'm not trying to pull that through the knots. Make it kind of come out as easy as possible. I'll flip it over and cut this one off a little bit too, making sure again that I don't cut my fall hitch strands or anything that I don't want to get cut or remove. So now that's all there is to that. The eye's cut apart, these pieces are ready. I've got this fall already tied onto, or threaded onto the whip. what you want to do now, and this one's already cut to a pretty good point, but you want to make sure that the fall here is cut to a really nice point so that it's easy to feed through the existing hole in this fall hitch. And another thing you want to be aware of is that this fall, you don't want to twist it and then try to pull it through. You want to see that you've got this side here coming all the way up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and yank this out real quick, just like, it's in there pretty good, just like that. Now you can see all the way through that fall hitch, and it hasn't come loose at all. It's as tight as it was a while ago, and nothing moved. I just pulled the fall all the way through it. Now I'm going to pull the fall into place, and this is why we kind of put the fall on first. It's a lot easier to have it on already and just put it through here than it would be to now try to feed the fall onto the whip without crimping this knot. That would make it really hard to pull this through. So I'm going to again make sure that this is nice and flat, and I'm just going to feed this right through here, just kind of get it started. Now this is going to get really tight, so one thing I would definitely recommend would be to have on hand, like I said, preferably some plaiting soap, or any kind of leather conditioner will work. You don't want to use something with a lot of light oils. The plaiting soap obviously has soap in it, that makes it slippery. Conditioner is going to work for now. It'll make it a little bit moist with some of this. This is some of the Trinity Whip Company's Aussie leather conditioner. It's pretty good stuff. We'll just work that on there, get some of it back here on the eye, make sure the whole fall is wet with it. And now we'll take our little towel, and I'm just going to use the towel because this has a little bit of conditioner on it. It's a new fall, so realistically, if you've got a brand new fall you're putting on, it's probably been recently treated with soap or some sort of leather conditioner. So now all I'm going to do is try to pull this tight. Now, one thing we got to know is that to further hold this strand in place, it goes through the eye of the fall. So you can't just pull the fall down and leave this hitch like that. You have to put this hitch, as it was before, through the eye of that fall. So as I get close, I'm going to stop, push this forward and open it up a little bit, and just feed that strand through the fall, the eye of the fall. Okay, now I can kind of hold that, keep it a little bit tight with this hand, and I'll be able to pull this fall and hopefully seat it into place. And that takes a good amount of pulling. I'm not just tugging on it, you know what I mean? I'm putting some tension on that dude. And what we'll do is take this whip out once we get a popper on it and do what we call a set crack, which is basically just going to help to seat this fall a little bit tighter in. You know, you're swinging this upwards of the speed of sound. That's going to put quite a bit of force on that. And the good thing about, you know, maybe this gives you a little bit better idea of how a fall hitch really works. Everything, all these strands get tied around this fall, and the last hitch holds all the other hitches in place, and it goes under the fall, so the fall holds it in place. So every time you crack this whip, it just helps to tighten this knot, and nothing can ever come loose. Now, one thing you might want to do, because there may be slight differences in the thickness of your leather that you're using for your new fall, it might be a little bit smaller in overall diameter, so to speak, than your old fall. So these hitches may not be as tight. I think we're good to go here. But if you have a pair of what they call saddler's pliers, or if you can take a regular pair of pliers and just kind of grind the teeth off of them smooth, you'll be able to grab these strands here and additionally pull those tight and pull this one tight if you want. But again, I think that this hitch is going to do just fine. This is a really close diameter to the fall we removed. I feel like it was not very easy to seat in there, and I feel like that's going to do just fine. So there you have it, just like that, in almost no time at all. A new fall installed on the end of that whip, and again, none of these hitches were undone. Nothing is any looser than it was when we had the initial fall on this whip. And the cool thing is, realistically, since this fall here really wasn't bad and didn't need to be replaced, all I got to do is cut this piece off right here like that, and I can now take a razor and put a new eye in this fall and use it, maybe probably put it on a shorter 4-foot or maybe a 6-foot whip or something. But there again, we've got the fall hitch replaced, and you're good to go for another couple years or however long it takes you to waste a fall. But thanks for watching. Hope you get some enjoyment out of this, and we'll see you next time.